excited for you to experience the leadership of Brad Aycock. As part of the Missional Church Consultation Initiative, a group of about, I don't know, Eileen, what were there, 16 of us went down to Messiah Church and were able to experience Brad's leadership there. And one of the prescriptions that we have is to become more guest-ready and more able to welcome people and bring them into full discipleship. So Brad is brilliant and has some things, I know, I can't help myself, but it's true. In fact, I think I would like to kidnap him and keep him right here. But he's got other jobs to do, which he will tell you about himself, yes?
Sure.
All right. And with that, Reverend Brad Aycock.
Thank you. Thank you. What did she promise you all? To get this many here on Friday night. It's not going to be that good. Well, it's an honor to be here. I do remember meeting some of you all back, I think it was in March. And in March I was living in Missouri and thought I would be living there for the rest of my life because I grew up there. And then I got an offer from West Ohio Conference to go and serve with the conference there as the director of New Church Development. So we made plans and God laughs, right? And so I've been there for 5 months. It's a little colder there than Missouri. I'm from the southeast Missouri area, the Boot Hill of Missouri, which is actually close to Memphis, Tennessee. It's cotton country, rice country there. And so we don't get a lot of snow, but we get some ice. And then I flew into here and I said, y'all got a lot of snow. And we haven't gotten much in Ohio yet. So, but it's really good to be here with you. My wife is back in Columbus, and my 4-year-old son and 12-year-old son are both there too. They're getting acclimated to the new school. My wife's a speech therapist, and she actually works at a school where she helps Somalian refugee children with their English as a speech therapist. And so she's loving that opportunity to serve in that capacity. So my story is I had a marketing business for 14 years. My brother and I had a consulting business, and then I had started a marketing business out of that. And so started that in 1996, and that business grew national, international customers. So I would consult with the businesses, and we had Fortune 500 companies that I'd work with to help them to kind of rebrand. So I would consult with them in that area, and also we would sell them the products. And so we would do the promotional products, screen printing, embroidery, and all of that. And so God called me in probably more around 2004 just to get serious about my faith. And so I grew up Southern Baptist, and my wife was Methodist, and I dropped out of church for probably about 15 years. And then I met her, and she was Methodist, and she said, I want to take you to church. And I said, what kind is it? She said, Methodist. And I said, they're weird. But I was unchurched, right? But I was still had the lens of the Baptist. Everybody was weird to me. So that was 1998, and so I got very involved, and then sold the marketing business. God just opened the door there, and we sold it. And I was hired by the largest Methodist church in Missouri, which was a church plant, LaCroix United Methodist Church in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. They hired me to be their church planter, first church planter there in my area. And then so went through that whole process of church planting, had a launch team ready to go, and then I got hired by a dying church. It's a weird story. Family friend was serving at a church in another small town in Missouri, and he said, hey, I want to talk to you about a position. We've just gone through the Healthy Church Initiative. So the Healthy Church Initiative is kind of the genesis of the MCCI. And that church that I served at was one of the first churches to do the Healthy Church Initiative. And so they had done it in 2006. He called me in 2008 and said, I want to talk to you about a job. And so I had my dream job at LaCroix. And so but he was family friend, and so I met with him, and he said, you know, we went from 400 to 250 through this process. He had been there 6 years. The church was a 150-year-old church, and he was ready to quit. He was ready to give up. He was about a 60-year-old guy, 60-year young guy, and he was tired. And so we prayed about it, and we walked away from the church plant and joined this church, First United Methodist Church in Sikeston, Missouri. And so I was there 5 years. He retired in January. That's when Sue Nelson Kibbe, she heard that he was retiring. I turned down that job in Ohio a couple times. She heard he was retiring, and then she said, "Does this change anything?" And so that's kind of one of the reasons I'm here. But so he retired, but I was there 5 years, and so through the 5 years, we experienced crazy growth. And so we went from about 250 in worship to when I left, 700. And this is a very small rural town in the sticks. And I think I probably said this last time, but where I lived was an hour from Starbucks. We had a Walmart, but there was nothing. It was a town of about 14,000, Sikeston is, and which the town that I lived in was 8,000. The town I grew up in was about 1,000. And so Columbus is a really big city. Way too many Starbucks. So anyway, I want to share some of that story to hopefully inspire you, because that church was dead. And so I have a theory that if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're in the hospital and it's flatlining, very seldom do you come back from that. Only a miracle can save you. And I've experienced a miracle there. I experienced a miracle at a smaller rural church that I served at as a lay leader there. I went from 60 to 120. And then at the larger church, LaCroix. So I've seen it where we can be stuck, and then God can do amazing things. I did mention that I went to Asbury Seminary and got my degree in Christian leadership there. A couple of years ago, I finished that up. So we've got about an hour and 40 minutes tonight. I have a lot of information, so we're going to get right to it. And then we'll see everybody back here in the morning at 9, right? Did you tell them about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So if you have any questions, stop me. We don't necessarily have to finish this part tonight. We can pick it up tomorrow. It's usually a 7-hour presentation. I've got it trimmed down to 5. So let's get after it, okay? I want to show you this video, a little story that we did a few years ago about Sikeston.
Been here for 6 years. Began the Healthy Church Initiative process in 2008. We were, I think, the 11th church in the conference to do this, and I can't say enough about how impacting that was for us and how grateful I am to the vision of our bishop, Robert Schnase, and also the work of Bob Farr and the Office of Congregational Excellence. It's not an easy process. It's like surgery. There's going to be pain involved in it, but the outcome is well worth it, and we've been very blessed in fruitfulness because of it.
Accepting the idea of change. It was our biggest obstacle. I think today it might be our new face.
Well, the Healthy Church Initiative process involves change because an awful lot of churches that have been around long enough have become more inwardly focused than externally focused and focused on the mission of making disciples. And so in order to refocus ourselves in that direction, we have to change, and change has to begin with the leader. And so pastors who go through it have to recognize they have to look at themselves and is there part of me and my discipleship and my leadership style that needs to shift in order to lead this congregation to be about the business of making disciples.
I remember one of the comments that was made by someone who was my age, someone like me, who had grown up in this church, and it was very passionately said, I don't want to see this church die.
I've been here for 16 years. Seen a lot of different changes. The start of the praise and worship service, the building of the Family Life Center, and through all the growth and the trials and everything, I really feel like that's just led us to this place now and made us a very strong unit.
We kept on, making small steps. For some people, it was overwhelming, and some people left. But I will be happy to say, we are seeing many of those people coming back. Every meeting now that I attend, it's not, well, we can't do this because we don't have the funds, or we can't do this because we don't have the people in the proper place. It's not like that anymore. It's like, we can do this because this is what God wants us to do. We have faith in this, and we have faith in each other.
So are you ready to go next level? Right here. All right, so we're going to talk about door to core. So we're going to talk about how that happened at Sykeston, but also at other churches that we've implemented this at. And so we're going to take you through that process. The door to core system uses practical, realistic methods to help you launch and or relaunch your unique ministry successfully. There are 3 components to the door to core process. You have guest readiness, simple systems, and catalytic events. I believe that we went through a couple of these, but we didn't get through the last one in March, which is one of my favorites. The skills, programs, and systems that take a church to one level will also keep it there and prevent forward movement, right? What got you here won't get you there. It's time for change. So we're going to go over some current realities here. I've updated some of this information, but if you'll notice, I use a lot of the Barna Group's research. The Barna Group is at the forefront of church data in America and the world, and so is the Pew Research Company. So I follow the Barna Group closely. David Kinnaman's the president there. And so he has a book called Churchless. I encourage you to check that out. It's a good, very informative book. And so if our goal really is to reach the unchurched within your community in this region, then we got to pay attention to what they're telling us. Because the number one reason they don't come to your church, or a lot of churches, is it's too boring. It's not like it used to be when Adam Hamilton wrote his book. When Christians get it wrong, they used to think we were hypocrites and judgmental. Now you're just too boring. The other reasons are that just lazy and not sure, and then too busy, have other obligations, right? We understand that with sports. And then you see that I'm not a Christian, I don't believe in God or Jesus. But they're telling us that it's too boring, right? And then here's some positive, as I've been traveling around West Ohio trying to figure that culture out. It's been encouraging the perception of Methodism there. Same thing here nationally. We have the highest favorable impression amongst the other denominations. Now this is a Lutheran, heavy Lutheran area, right? Okay. Well, we have a much higher favorability than those folks, don't we? Embrace that. I think my perception is Methodism, people think we're safe. People trust Methodism. It's a good brand in terms of that. But I think our perception is we're irrelevant. and we have little internal arguments about politics and things, where the unchurched really don't care about all that. But people inside the church it's distracting us from our mission. But I do think people trust us if we reclaim what we want to be known for. I really feel like we have a great opportunity to make a good comeback, but we're not articulating that very well. The actively churched are more likely to experience positive life outcomes. So, growing up Baptist, Southern Baptist, right, in the Boot Hill of Missouri, back in the day, you could distinguish Christians, not Christians, church and unchurched, because Christians didn't drink, smoke, or cuss in public, right? Out of the public part. But back in the day, but now, today, there's very little, you can't really distinguish church and unchurched. The lines are so blurred. They don't really see the purpose in it. But here's the difference, though, and this is really helpful information, too, as we get focused in on the unchurched. So actively church say that they are making a positive difference in the world. The unchurched are saying, we're not. We don't know where to go to do that. Well, we say we're the hope of the world, right? But we're not doing a good enough job of making them believe that. We're both happy. Unchurched say they want deep soul connections. Another way to put that is they're looking for authentic relationships, authentic community. We say we have that. They're saying, where do we find that? The other one is, I believe I'm fulfilling my calling in life. In other words, they want to find purpose in life and they don't know where to look. We're saying you can find it in the church. And we're both stressed out, and then they're saying they're lonelier than we are. So again, the data tells us that they want authentic community, they want to find purpose, they want to change the world, but you're too boring to come to church. Your church is too boring for me to come. So you must not care that I want to change the world, be an authentic community, and find my purpose. Some more data that Kinnaman shares is the unchurched aren't necessarily going to walk through your doors before they come and serve with you in your community. They're going to do that first before they try your church. So let's dive right into guest readiness. Guest readiness is how you win over the crowd. What is your church currently known for versus what is God calling your church to be known for? Understanding the outside perception of your church is the first step in creating community impacting ministry. What attracts people to your church? And the hostess at the restaurant that I went to tonight, she knew exactly where this church was. That's a good thing. Oftentimes people are like, no, I don't know where it's at. God can still bless us even if we do everything wrong, but God cannot bless us if we aren't willing to try. Right? The single riskiest thing you can do in the new world is to act like it is the old one. Many were educated to do ministry in the world that no longer exists. You cannot grow a church without pain. The crosses in the churches testify to this. Right? Change is so hard. It's so hard. 2 ways to change a culture. Start a new one, which is why church planting is popular these days. Or it could be start a new service. Or pursue explosive growth. We went the second route there in Sykes, but we actually started a new church service, which became its own, a life of its own. So when you pursue explosive growth, it creates its own set of challenges. It really does. When you go from, you triple your attendance in probably a 3-year time period, it throws things off of balance and way out of whack. But I would much rather have growing pains than dying pains, wouldn't you? I want to tell you a little bit about the church at Sykeston. And this probably is a great example of many United Methodist churches around the country. When I stepped foot in that church, we were known as the Rich White Country Club Church on the north end of town. Sykeston itself was about 50% African American. It was the site of the last known lynching of an African American in the United States. A lot of racial tension there in the whole area. So it really wasn't something, I wasn't going there to keep things the same. I wasn't wanting to go there and manage. So I remember the second week on the job, I told my pastor again, my pastor was tired and very vulnerable. Okay? I said, what would you think if we became known as the fun church? Again, he was tired and vulnerable. Basically like, sure. And so, so I was like, well, good, because I bought the domain name. So we're going to become thefunchurch.org. And so, again, we had to set a vision and try to live into it. So that was really a radical, drastic rebranding approach, for us. And so, yeah, some of the longtime folks, they didn't like it, But we weren't really growing at that point, so it's kind of like, what is he trying now? And so we became the Fun Church. I don't know, I think I'm Facebook friends with some of you all, but I posted this a couple of weeks ago. I was out in Dayton, Ohio the other day, and I passed a Kmart. I saw y'all have one. A big K, too. Well, I don't know how they're doing here, but it reminded me of the United Methodist Church a little bit. We see it, and it brings back memories of when things used to be good, but we don't want to go there. We want to go to Target. We keep going. And this is not about consumerism. This is about Kmart quit doing what they needed to do to reach the new demographic, the new customer, right? Target reinvents itself often. And so don't misunderstand what I'm trying to use as an example here. I'm saying that when you see a Kmart, at least in Missouri and Ohio, you kind of catches us off guard. It's like, oh, there's a Kmart. But you just keep driving though. We just keep driving. Sometimes we take a walk through there for memory lane. But the bottom line is they're closing, their stores often, right? You got Walmart in the middle, who still continues to try to keep up with their target demographic, right? But Target really does try to be at the forefront. So this is about relevance. It's not about consumerism. It's about doing what it takes to reach the people in your community, right? How many shop at Kmart? How many shop at Walmart? How many shop at Target? Whoa!
Well, and Target's a Minnesota company.
That's true, yeah.
They have a
That's true.
Starbucks.
That's true.
And they have Starbucks.
Yeah, but you also have a big K just like right there.
Yeah, we do.
Some of us have boycotted Walmart because of their past treatment of their employees.
Okay?
And small businesses.
Yeah, and they just shut a bunch down, Walmart did. But anyway, you get my point, right? Let's not be Kmart in a Target world. That's kind of my point to this story. All right, so also, how many have been on a cruise? Me too. Don't you love them? What is it you love about them?
You need the driving to them, the cooking to them, everything is just taken care of.
It's all about you. If you don't like something to eat, you just put it to the side and bring me another one. Or drink, right? You can be just lazy as you want to be, float around on the water. Now, does that remind you of any churches?
Yeah.
You walk in, it's all about me. It's all about my opinion, about my taste, about what I want, but what you need. It's about what you need to do for me. We don't want cruise ship churches. I love cruise ships. But cruise ships are all about me. Where we need churches that will be battleships. What's a battleship remind you of?
Yeah.
Right? It's focused, outward focused. It takes a beating, right? It has a mission. It has a mission. What's that?
Battleships make me think of death.
People die on cruise ships too. Watch 2020. No, you're right. My point is, I'm trying to. I would much rather have a ship that's focused on the mission than a ship that's focused on me, unless I'm on a cruise ship. Point is, we've got a lot of churches that are very selfish, right? Inward-focused churches. And that's really what's killing us. A few words on marketing. 90% of American churches are dying. If the local church is the hope of the world, hope is dying, communities are fading, families are struggling and suffering. So I like to say that if 90% of the churches are dying, 90% of American churches should stop promoting themselves. Why? Because all we're doing is inviting people to come in and see why no one else wants to come. That's the truth. You get somebody to try it, they may not ever try it again because they already have a preconceived perception. And so we don't want to feed that. We want to change people's, perception of Jesus by changing people's perception of the church. So my definition of marketing is the management of perception. If you don't manage the perception, someone else will. What do I mean by that? If your grass is too tall here at the church, what message are you sending? Can't pay the bills? Lazy? It's not important to you? If you don't change the light bulbs? That's just one example. If the signage is bad. Everything you do is marketing. It really is. The greatest message deserves the greatest marketing. We allow the culture to beat us in this area. Walmart, the mall, Target, we offer something that you can't get at the mall. A relationship with Jesus, a life transformation experience through a relationship with Jesus Christ. But yet we oftentimes just want to sit back and expect that stuff to take care of itself instead of managing it. So marketing is communication. It's proactively communicating your message to the public. So the opposite of marketing is to not do anything about it. Right? Like I said, just expect that stuff to take care of itself. Instead of figuring out what God wants us to be known for, what God wants us to be known as, clarifying that vision, taking the steps to live into it. What are some other factors that shape perception?
Past experience.
Yep, good. What else?
A secular society.
Okay. What else?
What others are saying?
Talk on the street. Gossip.
Or about the church, or
Mhm. Anybody else?
The way we talk about our church.
Yeah.
Location,
Yes.
our behaviors ourselves will affect someone else's perception.
Yes. So the church in general, as we saw that 90% are dying, so church in general shapes perception. The name of the church, the external promotions, website, ministry style, vocabulary, types of vehicles, denomination, location, worship style, ministry focus, signage, attire, doctrine. I didn't look at your website, but I just wanted, as a side, still even today, as far as the unchurched people go, no one reads websites in the beginning, but everybody looks at them. So keep that in mind. Signage, history, leadership team, children's ministry, outreach, past members, youth. So good, bad, and different, all of those things are planting seeds of perception. So we're going to talk real quick about church structure. Are you structured for growth? I don't know what your staff structure is like. We, at Sykeston, made a decision. We felt like we had a lid on the organization, and we were not going to grow until we opened that up. And so that's when our pastor created a position, the executive pastor position. That's what I became. and I oversaw all of the staff, and the pastor was in charge of teaching, preaching, and vision casting, what he was really gifted and called to do. I ran the staff and the ministries, and we also created a new position called Connections Coordinator, and that really made a big difference for us at the church. I'll explain more about that in a little bit. You're going to hear this some as you start going through changes and growing. You're going to hear some people say that they're stakeholders. I've been going to this church for 50 years. How old is this church? 150. People will say, I'm a stakeholder. I've been here for 50 years. Why are we giving more attention to those new people? Have you heard that yet? Nobody in here, though. That's not true. All organizations are owned biblically by Jesus Christ, covenantally and legally by the United Methodist Church. Owners are distinct from beneficiaries. So the primary beneficiary are those outside the church. Secondary beneficiary are those inside the church. So you really exist for those that aren't here yet. You grow and become stronger and strengthen one another and become discipled so that you can go and make disciples, right? Change is like moving a cemetery. You never get much help from the inside. Y'all act like y'all know what I'm talking about. 3 things you must do to make vision stick. I'm assuming you have a mission, vision. We're working on that. What's the mission of the church?
To make disciples for the transformation of the world.
I know that's the United Methodist. That's yours, okay. Well, at Sykeston, ours was leading people in new life with Jesus. It's the same thing. It's a great commission, right? And that really was the driving force behind every decision we made. Every decision we made ran through that filter. Does this help us, or does this get in the way of leading people to new life with Jesus? And so, 3 things you must do to make vision stick. You got to cast it strategically, you got to celebrate it systematically, and you got to live into it continuously. So we just bombarded people with that. They got tired of hearing some of the longtime folks. But you just got to make sure people know this is the mission. And you have leaks. Andy Stanley talks about you have a balloon, and over time it eventually the air goes away. Well, that's the way vision is. And you can check for leaks through prayer requests. You hope that you're always praying for the unchurched, those far from God, those who don't know Jesus or not connected to a church. You hope that's always part of the conversation and part of the language, part of the culture. Pray for each other, but also you need to pray for those far from God. You got to listen for stories. What are some of the stories you're hearing? Are you hearing stories of life change? Or are you hearing stories of gossip, arguing, that type of thing? And then also what people complain about. I know nobody in here this church does that, but if you take a picture of Jesus off the wall of a Sunday school class, and somebody complains about it, the vision is leaking. If people complain about the color of the carpet, or the color of the paint on the wall, the focus is being lost. The vision is leaking. If people complain about the music being too loud, the vision is leaking. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy.
Oh, Andrew.
Say the loud one again.
If people complain about things that are being too loud, because it's not about you, right? It's not about you. Now, if the quality's bad and sound system's bad, then we need to honor God through excellence, not perfection, right? I used to have a little, I think y'all did this last time, but I used to have a little game that we play about determining if vision is leaking or not. I'll try to bring that tomorrow. But anyway, you see the point, right? If you start hearing that kind of stuff, and you will, you probably are, then you got to get back focused in. Our goal is to move the unchurched along the continuum to eventually say, if I ever go to that church, if I ever go to church, I'm going there. How do you do that? 3 ways. You have to raise awareness, so that they have to hear what we say we're about. In other words, we're the friendliest church in town. Everybody says that. Every church says that. We're the church that's changing the community. Every church says that. So they're going to hear that. Then you have to get credibility. They have to buy it, accept it. In other words, if you do an outreach event, they're going to come and check you out, and then you're going to get credibility. And then eventually they might say, that's where I'm going. But it's all about timing, isn't it? For 1 month, they may not be open to coming. But if they go through a difficult challenge in their life, they're going to step foot in this church. You must do things with quality. The rest of the labor force is held accountable to high performance in their everyday professions. Your guests are developing a perception from their first 60 seconds of pulling in to the parking lot. If you don't take it serious, neither will your guests. What would an unchurched person say about your church? I'm not talking about someone that's been here before. I'm talking about the waitress around the corner. What would she say if I asked her? Because I probably will do that in the morning before I come. What would they say? What's that?
If you got a cheap Charlie's, they'd say he's here all the time.
I think they'd say, that's that church downtown.
Some people have said that's a church where they have Christmas Anonymous.
Have what?
Where we have Christmas Anonymous here every year. And a lot of people that I knew there in church are involved in Christmas Anonymous on one side or the other. And they'll say, well, that's that big church downtown that has Christmas Anonymous.
What is that event?
It's an event that's put on by the Olmsted County that helps people at Christmas time that can't afford clothes, toys, and all kinds of things. And they go through the county and receive papers so that they can come, and then they go shopping. It's huge.
You host
They
it here.
serve about 700, they used to serve about 900, now it's about 600 to 700 families.
That's awesome. And you host it?
Yes.
Is it your event? Or you just host it?
No.
We just hosted. We just hosted.
Okay, that's a good thing to be known for. That's kind of irrelevant. Whoever said with a big church downtown, it's like, yeah, there's a big church downtown. Somebody else have something?
One time, people used to say, we are the music church.
They still say that.
I think it's still there.
Because the music's so awesome.
And loud.
I have people that say to me, oh, you go to the church where they go to Guatemala.
Yes.
I've had people say that I've heard some people say it's a place where there's lots of social justice, passion, and service opportunities. And I've had people say it's a church where lots of drama happens.
We're not talking drama on
No, not stage.
as a ministry.
Yeah.
No, but that's what's happening.
Tell me, is this more conservative or more progressive area? What about the church?
This is a very conservative area of Minnesota.
How about the church?
I said that church is more of a progressive side.
How many are going to vote? Just kidding. So the church is about blended then.
Yeah.
The reputation, again, from people, I ask people all the time, and they say progressive. People say progressive.
But it's more of a conservative city.
But the community has really changed.
Yeah.
At one time, it was totally, all elected officials were Republican. No questions asked. Moderate Republicans. Today, we have a mixture of both.
A fellow asked me from this church why I went to a Chamber of Commerce event. My answer was, this is where we do justice. We sat together. We still talk with each other. But we don't see justice in the same way, but we do find ourselves actively participating in justice ministry.
So the church is pretty active in that area then?
A lot of people know this is a place where you can get a good meal on Saturdays. It's known
Free.
in groups downtown.
At the church you can? What's the purpose of that? Tell me about that.
It's for the homeless.
Okay?
Or low income.
Others.
Anybody who needs a meal.
I worked for many years with a business that had predominantly young people working in it. And I would say most of them would either say, what's that? Never heard of it before. Or it's that big church downtown. And not much more than that.
Okay. Does anybody here work at the hospital?
Yes.
They employ a lot of people, don't they? How about IBM?
I'm sorry.
How many work at IBM? And then what's the other one? Hormel?
Hospitality.
Well, there's a real relationship though between Mayo Clinic and the experimentation that goes on in the healthcare industry in Hormel.
Harmel Institute.
And that's as close as across the street
Okay,
from here.
gotcha. Okay, well, that's a broad scope of answers there, right? Of what an unchurched person would say. I think we need to check, I think we need to do some surveys outside there. How would a first-time guest describe the overall Sunday experience? How many first-time guests do you have a week?
I'd say we average about 10 or more. Many come because they're visiting Mayo, but we also have resident visitors, probably at least 10 to 20.
That's good. What do you mean resident visitors?
They have local addresses
Gotcha.
versus they're from out of town.
Gotcha. That's a lot of first-time guests.
Yes, it is.
Do they come back?
Yeah,
Are you able to track them?
we do track them, yep.
Okay. So are you getting any feedback from your first-time guests?
No, unless we ask them directly.
Okay.
We had a good, we had a good review on Facebook. We had a visitor at our chapel service who gave us a review, which was good.
Who's the newest to this church in the room? Welcome. How long have you been coming?
Over a year, probably.
What brought you here?
We haven't found a church home that we really,
I grew up Methodist, so
and I grew up Catholic.
Are you from Rochester?
no.
Are you new to the city? No, you've been here a while.
15 years, we've been here now, almost 16.
Have y'all been out of church and just decided to get back in, or just left another church to come?
Out of church and other churches, yeah.
Why did you try this one?
Well,
Actually, I started researching confirmation
Yeah.
for our 8th grade daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't want to, I didn't want her to go to Lutheran church. A lot of her friends, that's where they go in the town she goes to school in. And so we were just looking at, where do they have what looks like a good confirmation program. And so we thought, well, we need to go and check out the church first and do that leading up to confirmation. So it was actually, kind of for our daughter.
Yeah. What service do you go to now?
8 or about 9.
You mean time of day or?
Sunday morning, which is one of the
Yeah,
three.
we go to both 9 or 11. We've never been to the 8 o'clock one, so.
So how was your first experience? Do you remember it? Do you remember what it was like when you walked in?
It was friendly. People came up and greeted us.
Anything jump out at you? Help us out, come on.
Not initially when we first came in, but
preaching really connected with you? Anything else that would help the group that you could share? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
You want to see people your age, or if you're bringing your kids here, you want to see kids, and you don't really see them when you come in. You got to get involved and then meet some people, and then you start seeing them. I think that sometimes can take, because we came here maybe 10, 12 years ago. I came once by myself, and then I think Nicole came with me one time, and both times it was just, I'm sorry to say, there were no young people. We're not young anymore, but 10 years ago I felt like I was young. No real young people that you saw, and then we were starting a family, and no real, families that you saw at the service we went to anyway. So I don't think, if they had the 11 o'clock service, had no idea about it, so we went to a church that had multiple services, like a Saturday service, and then 2 or 3 on Sunday where they were different, where you could go and there was more music. At this one, there was more interaction, that kind of thing. And you don't get that if you come one time and you come to the wrong service. Somebody might come to the 8 o'clock service, and I know it's a smaller, and they might just be turned off just like that. So one thing that, you got to get lucky and get to the right service. Maybe we wouldn't come back if, this is based on my wife's perception, if Elizabeth wouldn't have been preaching that Sunday. If we had heard somebody else, maybe we don't come back. We went to other churches in this town based on what the message was, and we didn't go back.
Elizabeth,
And I feel like I
vacations, you gotta be here.
I feel like when you leave church, you should leave with something. And either I leave happy, or I leave emotional, or I leave with something. So I feel like other churches, you just leave with nothing. And so I guess that's why I like it here, is I feel like I always leave with something.
It's very helpful information. Something that he said there, what's your name?
Royce.
Russ. It's very helpful. We did that at this church, and I also recommend other churches consider it, to brand each service. Because when we started getting momentum, what happened is we had the traditional service, and we had a contemporary service, and we killed the contemporary service and relaunched it. So we relaunched the traditional service and called it Traditions. Relaunched the contemporary. We didn't kill the traditional, we just changed the name. Kind of left that one alone. But we relaunched contemporary service and called it The Journey, Church for Unchurched was our tagline there. And that thing took off, and the reason we branded them differently, we brand everything there. Now we have a Wednesday night service, we have a new church plant. But you don't want somebody to walk into the wrong service, because especially if you start growing and they hear about all the stuff that's happening at this church, and they're like, I want to go, they have an 8 o'clock service, let's go there. And then it's not what they expected, exactly what you said. They may not be sitting here today, no matter how good the preaching was. So I'm saying maybe it's something you consider, because our goal was to get people talking about the journey. Because we've been around 150 years. Traditional service probably hadn't changed a whole lot throughout that time. So there was a perception of that in people's minds and hearts, and they weren't really interested in trying it. So they either tried us and stayed, tried us and didn't like it, tried us and left, or never were going to try us because it wasn't their style, or they didn't like the rich white, label that was coming with it. So we had to start something totally new and make sure we were crystal clear of what it was about. And we even bought a domain, Journey UMC, just in case that thing would have ever, and it did, it took off, and that really rescued that church. So it might be something to consider if you're going to do something different in here. Anything else? Did you have something?
I was just gonna say too, I feel like during the services, we're all kind of involved, like sometimes you just feel like you go to a church and they're just speaking to you and preaching to you. It's like, I feel like you guys kind of get us involved, and you feel like it's like a community, I guess, where sometimes you just sit there and just listening and just having somebody, not like preaching. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know.
For a first-time guest,
Welcoming, and it just feels more comfortable.
it's like walking into a family reunion and you're not part of the family. when you're a first-time guest, unless you've got really good hospitality. I mean, it really is.
And I think we felt that way right away. It wasn't like we had to come here multiple times. It just
Yeah.
felt
I'm unchurched right now. I moved there and we haven't found a home church. And so even working in ministry for the conference, I want to go in and not be bothered, you know, or ambushed. And so it's really hard, especially now since I'm consulting and coaching. It's hard to not like, I wonder why they're doing that. They shouldn't do that. So it's just not fair. So I think the very valuable, the newest people are going to be your most valuable asset. And the good thing is they've been here for a year. And so they came and they stayed and they love it. I would say that I would encourage you to consider using secret worshipers once a month if you're not doing that. What that looks like is you find someone that does not have a home church. You don't want to know what your Lutheran friends think about this. They're good. They're fine. You want to make sure you have an unchurched person and bring them through the whole process. If they have kids, run the kids' ministry. The goal is, though, don't bring them in and have them secret worship at both services or all three services, because they're going to compare them. You got to come up, you got to bring them in for just one, and you're going to pay them $25, and you're going to see how hard it is to get people to come to church. You can't even pay them these days. But seriously, people have friends that are in church, like I said, the waitresses, waiters, co-workers. It would look something like this, you know. Hey, we're trying to design a service to reach young people like yourself. You could really help us out by coming and worshiping on a Sunday. We'll pay you just to help us out. And so then you send them a survey, they fill that out, and then you send them the money. And so I will say that several people ended up staying and joining the church when we've done that. I don't know if it's like the experience or like being part of the ground level design, but it was worth the $25, though, for sure, no doubt. We're going to talk about hospitality now. Going back to when I first started at Sykeston, they would have people on hospitality that weren't gifted in that area. You know what I'm trying to say? It would go something like this. Sunday morning, 10 minutes before church, if we're lucky. Hey, would you watch the door? Hey, would you have that bulletin? It was very unorganized. It was ridiculous. Because, you know, that can make or break the entire experience, right? And so we created a list of 10 expectations to be on what we call our connections team. And so you have to read through them. We didn't invite everybody to be part of that. We didn't open that up from the stage. Hey, you want to serve in hospitality? That was a personal invitation only. And we targeted customer-friendly, customer service, you know, people, you know, good with people type of people. And so we looked at Steve Jobs, you know, of Apple. How many of you have ever been in the Apple store? Do you have an Apple store here? You've been to the Mall of America. That's an awesome mall. So you walk into the Apple store, you walk up to the Apple store, you see a big clear window and a lot of life in there, right? I mean, there's always a lot of people in the Apple store, no matter what. And so they receive two different clients. I walk in and it might be my first time or I'm just wanting to shop. But they're always, hey, let me know if I can help you. No thanks, just browsing. Or, hey, what can I do for you? And you walk in with your Apple IIc. Does anyone remember Apple IIc? I'm saying this with IBM people in here. Sorry.
Sorry.
We good?
We use apples at IBM now.
I haven't seen any apples around here. In there. But you walk in with an old computer needing repairs. And so we thought, they're doing something right. And so we designed our connections team. So they have their geniuses, and so we have a connections team. Our connections team would include people that serve communion, people that took up the offering, people that stacked chairs, because we had a gym. Connections team covered all those people. primarily the greeters. That was the most important part. And so we would have people in the lobby with these lanyards on, with matching t-shirts on, that would say, "Ask me anything." Yeah, we got that from Apple too. Or they got it from us, right? So we would have matching shirts, matching lanyards. We'd be very visible in the lobby. 2 people would be called our connection agents. And so they would have clipboards. And on the clipboards would be listed every ministry that we have to offer at that particular time. And so if you walked in, you needed something, you're having struggles in your life or going through a divorce, and you walk up and say, "I need help." And then that person would go through the list and say, "We have divorce care Thursday nights at 7. And we would write on a prescription pad that has carbon. We'd write the time, the ministry leader, and their phone number, and give you a copy, and give the ministry leader a copy, and contact them within 24 hours. Our ministry leader would. Now, if that particular connection agent couldn't answer a question, we would send them to the connections bar. And so it would be easily identified, kind of like the Genius Bar at Apple. That was our connections coordinator, our paid staff person. Now, we understand in culture today, connect is a buzzword, right? It's a very, very relevant word. Discover is very relevant. Purpose is very relevant. So we tried to use those terms as often as possible. And so when we organized our hospitality in that way, it really made a huge difference. It just changed the whole atmosphere of the service. And we had to put the right people in the right places. Any questions on that? You guys do good hospitality here?
Could be better.
We don't do that.
I think this is the problem in this church is that there are, if you'd sit there on Sunday or watch communion, there are a lot of older people. They've been here for years, they sit the same place, they talk together, and we don't have a lot of young people that really reach out as people are coming in. There's no reason why everyone under the sun can't walk up to someone and say, Are you a member, or have I just not met you? I mean, something to that effect, that you find out that they're new. But I think the fact that we have so many older people that are kind of stuck in the mud, that, don't look at me.
Is it kind of a cool?
Well, they walk in and sit in church. Once in a while, they'll drink coffee out there together, but you don't really see people saying, "Can you stay for a while? Come and have coffee." We have a lot of retired people that come in a van, and they go home right after church. That's not me.
I would say we've been blessed, we've had some very,
I think those are factors that distract.
so I think we've been blessed that we've had some very good folks who love to meet people, who have really got out of the way as individually to do greeting and welcoming people to the church. We do not do a very good job about going about it very systematically. And as those people some of those people have gotten older and aren't as active or have passed away, there has actually been, in my personal opinion, a decrease in the amount of that kind of welcoming that goes on.
Does everybody agree with that?
Can you repeat a little bit what he said?
It sounds like some of the people that used to carry the load no longer
Well,
here.
I'll just say, we've been blessed by having a number of individuals in this church who were very outgoing, very personable, who it was their own personal mission to reach out and to greet and to welcome people. But we have not gone about it in a very systematic way because we always relied upon those number of individuals. Many of those individuals are no longer here, or either here they aren't very active anymore because of age. Many have passed away, and I have noticed a significant decrease in the amount of welcoming that does go on.
Yes.
I will continue to say, and Lael's heard me say it many times, but I think that for young families, for my kids, the fake grandparents that they have here, because they're their real grandparents are in states away, are key to why my kids love coming here. And many people in this room, I consider my kids fake grandparents, and I think if we actually had a program that's structured, elderly people to adopt families that come, and if they just think of these children as these are my grandchildren, and just each of them greet the grandkids, they're fake grandkids. I tell Leila, we have to make fake families for people because so many people are here without their families, and that is one of the things that builds the community that makes people want to come back. And every confirmant that Katie works with should have a fake grandparents in the
But a
church.
better name than fake.
I don't care.
Foster grandparents.
But I just think if every person, and my daughter is in confirmation right now, and I think there should be, because as that child then goes through the 2 years of confirmation, when they are confirmed, they'll have their bonus grandparents. So to be part of the thing. And so if that becomes, when you see a new family that's here, if we have bonus grandparents who are always on the lookout for new families to just be that first.
One of the bigger issues, I think, and what Tracy's saying touches on it, is the expectation of the congregation to be welcoming all of them, not just grandparents, not just anyone, that all of us are looking to see the unchurched, to see the people that are coming in the door, that we all have a sense that we're not here to visit with each other on a Sunday, but to welcome somebody new. And that each person wants to adopt that family and welcome them, and not, so maybe that, the systems is, and the training is what we're lacking.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have biblical hospitality as a lifestyle, but it's hard, because you do have your holy huddles, right? You can't welcome people because you're too busy catching up about the ball game. I understand. That should be part of the expectations. I can give you my 10 expectations if you want.
Yes.
But I think one thing we need to take a note of that we might need to unpack when we have time to do it is, these are some good ideas. What does it look like? So we had an action step. Hospitality is something we need to address. Yes.
Yeah, one other thing though, and I would say is that representing the ushers in the church, if we see somebody come in that we don't recognize, we ask them if they're visitors or if we've just never, met them before. And if whether they're a member from some other church just visiting or whether they're new, we typically try and get one of the ministers to talk with them before the service starts.
Good. You do that already?
Yes,
At this point, you think you do it pretty good?
I think so.
One thing you have to realize too, is you start growing and you get a bunch of people in here, eyeballing it doesn't work really anymore. That's one thing. Second thing is, first time guests, they typically aren't going to want to hug. They kind of like that. Think of the Apple Store, or when you go to shop at Dillard's or whatever you have here, it's just like, I'll let you know if I need your help. I'm glad you acknowledge that I'm here. Thank you for that. But I'll let you know. So that's kind of the mentality. And also, you have to assume that everyone that enters your doors for the first time, consider them introverts. No matter if they are or not, that's the way you got to treat them. They're introverts. So asking them, is this your first time? Because what eventually will happen when you start growing, you're going to have new people on your connections team, and they're going to ask some of the old timers, are you new? And then they're going to get slapped upside the head. Figuratively speaking. Like, I've been going here longer than you.
I'm really interested in that idea of doing things more systematically, as I have a colleague who is a member of the church, but really doesn't come. And whenever she comes, she's asked, oh, are you new? And she's so deflated. And what's the point of coming? And it's even the clergy.
Yeah.
I saw her 3 months ago, and she still doesn't know who I am. I've been a member of this church for how, but, comes
Yeah.
once a year. So how do we switch that for those of us that maybe don't have photographic memory? I'm really interested in that.
Well, we can talk more about it tomorrow. Are we doing the right? Okay. You got to get to a point where you got to have a connection card, you got to have a response mechanism, you got to be able to reach out that way. Do it in the lobby, unless they're with someone, like, hey, this is Brad, I came with, Typically, if they're by themselves, family, I don't know, you guys are the newest, you kind of want to just try it out first. Kind of taste and see, and then kind of like disappear, process it, right? Even if you loved it, still you just want to be like, let's talk about this at lunch, right? They were really nice, not too nice, really nice, right?
That's why we didn't go back to some churches.
Yes.
You either got completely ignored, rudely ignored, or you got smothered, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, did you need it that bad?
So I
I'm
nominate,
supposed to need you, you're not supposed to need me.
since it's fresh on their mind, I nominate those two for your connections team. Congratulations. We may not see them tomorrow. So we're going to move right into hospitality, or from hospitality to worship. We like to call worship 52 events a year. So every weekend is an event. And so we put a lot of planning and preparation into worship. You mentioned like the traditional. I don't want to skim over that. We implemented the connections team in our traditional setting probably a year later. It was just a very cold lobby, I guess. And we knew that our changes were going to be implemented more effectively at the new service, the new start. And we didn't want to make them mad at the traditional service. I did make them mad plenty of times. But at that particular time, it was like, we're just going to leave them alone. Don't be shooting holes in our boat. We're going to do what we feel God's leading us to do here. And we still grew in the traditions because there was a lot of energy, excitement. We would bring in different music and stuff. But it took a while before we implemented the connections team into traditions. But when we did that, it just made a huge difference. We got some of the cranky people out of that position. And so we could talk about that too, because it's a little bit more challenging. But let's move into worship. Preparation is the separation, right? You have to prepare worship, no matter what type of worship it is. You've got to plan, pray, plan, prepare for worship, because it is the showroom floor. In Columbus, Ohio, there is a place called the Toy Barn, and it has Lamborghinis, Porsche, help me out, Ferrari. They have all of those cars. My 12-year-old is really into cars now. And so we go take selfies in front of them, the Lamborghinis, send them to our family back home. But that's what worship should be. Worship should be the showroom floor. We shouldn't try to save them. Only God saves. We shouldn't try to heal people. We have their entire life to make disciples. Our goal is to get them to come back the second time. Just like that place is. They want you there. They get the whole life to bring them in the back door for repairs. So the back door is kind of like the discipleship process, the garage, right? But you got to have everything. I always like to say, honor God through excellence, not perfection. Worship has to be off the chart experience. If it's not, especially for young millennials, they want the authenticity, but they want it to be good quality. They'll be open to a lot of different types of worship. Ancient Future is popular right now with them, but they'll be open to anything if hospitality is good, other things are in place, but it has to be quality and authentic. So worship is vital. It's the showroom floor. So how do we do that? So we celebrate every victory. So if we had a spike in attendance, we were blaring it all over every outlet we could. Email, social media, 20% increase in worship. 3 baptisms this week. Because again, when I started at Sykeston, we had 250 people there. 200 of them were sitting with their arms crossed, cruise ship mentality. Some of them were just thinking, we're going to outlast this guy. We're Methodists. Yeah, my pastor was there 6 years, and one of his greatest strengths was he was gritty and stubborn, and he was not going to let them outlast him. And so 200 of them were just sitting there, feed me, mentality. 50 of them were just ready to do whatever, ready for something new. And so we, as you can see, if we went 250 to 700, we overwhelmed the opposition in a hurry. If you want to call it what it is. And I'm not saying people are not the enemy. Really, people aren't the enemy. But you have opposition to the mission. So we turned it upside down. How did we do that? A lot of ways. But one way we did it was to celebrate every victory. And so we squashed it down. So when I left, we had it down to about 20 people that hated everything that we tried. So God does change hearts or calls people elsewhere, too. It's a great point. It's true. Again, celebrate every victory. Worship attendance. We celebrated worship attendance a lot. They got on people's nerves. But I still think Jesus celebrates when people come and commit to Him. And so we would celebrate that a lot. We would say, every number has a name, every name has a story, every story matters to God. That was our response. So, again, back to worship. We felt like a transformation takes place when people are affected by the experience. So we really were very intentional and strategic about every moment of every service so that people could allow the Holy Spirit to offer a God encounter. When I left, this is the way our worship was set up. This was on some of our promotional material. So we said one church, 4 unique options. So there's our traditions, and it explains exactly what it is, right? So our facility, we had 3 different worship venues there as well. We had a sanctuary, we had a gym, where we did our journey service, and we had a chapel. Probably similar to you. You have 3 as well, don't you? And then in March, we launched a new service geared towards millennials called Renovate Church. And so it tells you what traditions is, it tells you what the journey is. Church Run Church tells you what the core is, it tells you what Renovate is. Again, we didn't want people mistakenly walking into the wrong services. We blasted this out everywhere. To yourself, I probably will call on you too. I want to know the invitability of this church. In other words, your credibility is on the line every time you invite someone to church, right? So how confident are you in inviting someone? Do you think the invitability is weak? Or is it strong?
Strong.
How many say 5?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
So you have a coworker,
Yeah.
and you love this church, and you're so confident that they're going to love the experience that you want to invite them here. How confident are you in doing that right now?
Because I think they will like it. 4.75.
4.75. We have a 4.75. We're going to round that up. We're not to 5. How many are at a 5? Do you think if you invited someone, they're going to love it? How about 4? How about 3? I feel like I'm on CNN with the this whole thing. Yeah. How about 1? Was that a hand raise?
I wrote it. How about 4?
How about a 2? 3? 4?
4.75.
5? How many people have y'all invited lately then? If you're that confident. You have?
We had 2 people come with us last Sunday.
Good.
And they, I wish I had been thinking in this framework and asked them more questions. They asked us a lot of questions, wanting to know which ministers do what, and, they asked a lot of things about the congregation, but they were very non-committal. I couldn't tell you. They didn't in any way suggest that they would like to come back.
It's
They
so,
didn't say anything
it's
negative.
so hard, isn't it? It's kind of awkward too, isn't it?
Yeah,
When they just won't tell you.
yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to know. What'd you think? Well, that's good. You guys seem to be very confident in the place. So you got a lot of things going in the right direction. But you also said hospitality needs work. So keep that in mind too. So each time you invite someone to worship, your reputation is on the line, right? True or false? Like you, unchurched people are consumers. The answer is true. We are an attractional church. We all should be an attractional church. In our search for common ground with unchurched people, we find that they are consumers like us, right? So you hear a lot of talk in the church world, attractional versus missional, which I think it's both. But you have to be attractive, right? So as I said before, we worshipped in a gym. I mean, it was a gym, and we had to do a lot of treatment to it to get it to sound good when we relaunched the Journey, the new service. And it became the fastest growing Methodist church in Missouri at the time. But we did smoke and lights. In that particular context, no one was doing anything like that. It was good quality. Our surveys for unchurched folks said it didn't feel like I was walking into a church. It felt like I was walking into an event, which is exactly the way we tried to design it, right? And so we would show some videos beforehand. We have the coffee bar. Just really wanted to make sure people, first-time guests, were comfortable. Now, we as Christians are supposed to be comfortably uncomfortable, right? In other words, change hurts a little bit, doesn't it? Change makes us grow. Change stretches us. So we got to be comfortable with change, knowing it's going to make us uncomfortable. But we want first-time guests to be comfortable. We really do, because it is all about them. You know the saying, it's better to give than it is to receive. Well, you've got to have something before you can give it. And so you got to assume first-time guests are coming in empty. They're coming in to receive something, whether it's music, Jesus, message. They got to get it before they can give it. So it is all about them. Really is. Again, you got to get them back a second time. We have their whole life to disciple them. Attractional is important because only when you're attractive will you have the ability to attract, right? Something that we also did, and I encourage people to do, clarify the weekend win. You'll go through periods where people in this very room will say, we're just focused on the numbers here. We're just worried about numbers. We're just worried about people that aren't here yet. Well, again, every number has a name. Every name has a story. Every story matters to God. But we don't just want to build numbers. We want to build an army for Jesus. And so we came up with this. What is a win? God is honored, and increasing numbers of people encounter Jesus and are then challenged to put their faith into action. It comes from the book of James, right? Not only do we want to be hearers of the word, we want to be doers of the word. We're not trying to reach Christians. We're trying to reach a secular world, right? Right? And so we would often play a secular song as the opening song, just to get people comfortable, to connect with them. As long as it was associated with the theme. It doesn't need to be random. One of the reasons why the traditional church is so slow is that it is overly concerned with getting it right rather than focused on building momentum. Momentum is really a key to all of this. How do you get momentum? It's hard. So how do you get it? How do you generate it? How do you sustain it? The way you get it is you start something new. Or you release something new. I like to use Charmin as an example. How many use Charmin toilet paper? What else is there? Cottonelle? Yeah. What is it? That's a good point. Well, why do I bring up Charmin? So you're walking through Kmart, Walmart, or Target, wherever you may shop, and you see the Charmin over here, you see the all-new 5-ply Charmin, and you think to yourself, how could it get any better than 4? I gotta think, get me some of that. You're laughing because it's true. It might not be Charmin, it might be an iPhone though. But we are consumers, and we are drawn to new things. Again, new churches, new services, new hospitality team, new outreach event. It gives you something to promote, it gives you something to rally around, it gives you something to be excited about. And so that's how you generate it and sustain it. You start something new, something improved, something improving. You know, like the brand new and improved, fill in the blank. Now it takes a lot of energy. It's very demanding to think like this, to always be reinventing. But it's important. So I encourage churches to consider at least 3 strategic momentum triggers for worship each year to get momentum. So what does that mean? We want to build up and get that thing up there like this in attendance, because you know it's going to fall down a little bit. You're going to get it up a little higher, and it's going to fall down. So timing is important. So we target Easter, back to school, September, and Christmas time for our time frames. And so I'm going to give an example of what I mean. Probably 2011, we were tracking, had some traction in attendance. Probably about 350 to 400 at that point. So we added 150 new people in worship. And so we did a series called Radical. Anyone ever heard of Radical, the book by David Platt? You have? Did you read it?
No. I have it on my shelf though.
I'll tell you all about it. Same time. Now we did a series called Radical, and notice our graphics too. They're very consistent. They're very, I think, great quality. Perception is important, and so we did a series called Radical, where we wanted to challenge our church. And so we talked about what would be a radical move for First UMC and Sison to bring someone in with a radical story. And so we decided to bring in this guy. Now, we didn't look like this. We didn't look like that. No one in our church looked like that. Dreadlocks, tattoos. Has anyone ever heard of Korn? Do you love them? You do too. You're just trying to say that. Korn, it was a alternative rock band in the 90s. Who wants to tell us about Korn? So they were pioneers. They kind of created their own genre, Grammy Award winner band. Do y'all know what Korn is? So this guy walked away from a record deal, $23 million record deal with Sony Records to follow Jesus' radical story. Major addict, and you name it. He was addicted to a lot of things. It was just crazy. He had a couple of best-selling books out, and I said, let's bring this guy in. And so we did, and we did a direct mailer. This was it, and we mailed out to 10,000 homes. We organized a lot of media coverage, a lot of social media as well. But we were trying to reach into the hearts of the unchurched. You know, hear his radical journey from addiction to freedom. We had a lot of drug abuse in our area there, so we were trying to get right into their hearts. Now, you'll notice that we did not bring him into the traditional service. Y'all are smart. Most people think, why? They were okay with it. They were perfectly fine. But we knew that, again, you gotta think strategy here. We knew that he was a hero to so many people. I mean, he was big time. And we knew that people were going to line up to see him at the first chance that they could get it. So if we had a Saturday night service at the time, they would have came. But we had a Sunday morning service at 9, and they didn't care if it was called Traditions. They weren't coming to hear any music, hear anything about Jesus or God. They were coming to see their legend rock star. So we put him at the 11 a.m. service. So we had to rent. Like I said, we were averaging in that service probably $250 maybe. So we had to rent 300 extra chairs, bring in bleachers, just making plans. I remember sitting out the chairs that day. A couple of the longtime folks said, "Do you think people are really going to come to this, or do you think they'll realize you're just trying to trick them into coming to church?" I said, "I don't know, but we're going to be ready if they do." And so we did the whole campaign, and we did these. We call these our Fave 5 challenge. It's a sleeve of 5 cards, perforated, and so we gave those out the week before and challenged people to hand those out. And then they came. And so 773 people came through the doors of our 11 a.m. journey service. We talk about momentum. In so many ways was momentum created. Our connections team were buzzing. They were so excited, like, where are we going to put them? People just kept coming in. Our band, they had the rock. They were ready to go. Full house. People walked in with alcohol on their breath that morning. Some people went back out to their vehicles and came back. We had counselors on hand during our time of response. We had a connection card ready for people to respond if they needed counseling. But we pulled out all stops. And we broke the fire code that day. So I remember, though, afterwards, I'll never forget, a friend of mine walked a guy up to me. And so this guy was shaking. And he said, I was driving across Tennessee, and I heard he was going to be here. I was going to take my life today until I came and heard this story. And so it cost us about $4,500, I think, for that whole thing. Direct mailing, getting him there. But was that worth it, though? I mean, the guy's, his life was saved. But so many other stories have come out of that day. Did we get 773 back the next week? No. We probably had about 400 back, though. But over the years, though, that was 2011, people show up. Remember what I said earlier about the timing? If I ever go, that's my church. People that didn't come back, they still probably said, I go to First Gym C. They claim this as their church. So over the years, people would come in and say, I was there that day, and now I'm ready. And so Jesus says to scatter the seeds, right? That's all we're supposed to do, scatter the seeds. And so we became a recovery church with recovery ministries then at that point, and it just changed us. Again, there's so many benefits to doing something like that. I'll just never get the look on the faces of our teams when hospitality was trying to figure out where to put people. Our band was, over the top with energy because people were raising their hands. We didn't raise our hands back then. People, we didn't even know were raising their hands worshiping. He was very kind. He stayed afterwards. Good guy. Has he ever been around here? Has anyone ever brought him? You gotta be ready for something like that if you're gonna do it. I mean, hospitality, your people, you have to be ready to receive people that might not look like you. Then we did this one. You guys are progressive. Well, this is the one that almost got me fired almost. I'm lucky to be here today. Just kidding. One family did leave over it, but they came back. But again, we want to be marketable. We want to do marketable series. We want to empower you to invite your unchurched friends. Unchurched people love that stuff. So we did a series on forgiveness. Does anyone remember Ted Haggard?
Yeah.
No, Ted Haggard was the president of the Evangelical Association here in the U.S., and he was the spiritual advisor to President George W. Bush. And so they prayed every Monday together on the phone. He had You can Google it. It was a really unfortunate thing that he did. And so his wife stuck with him through all of that. Again, Google it and you'll see what I'm talking about. She stayed with him and she wrote a book called Why I Stayed. And so again, it changed our church when she came. There's our Connections shirt. I want to see what that might look like. And there's Gail. But again, we empower our people to get excited. We did this series called The Cause Within You. We would send home a piece of paper the first week of that series, and we said, if you could change the world, what would be the one thing that you would do if you could change the world? Pray about it this week. Bring back that piece of paper next week. And I encourage people going into a new appointment oftentimes to do this, because that really helped us to see where God was at work in the hearts of our people. So we laid those pieces of paper out on a table, a staff, and you could just kind of see a thread. People wanted to break down the racial divide, racial barriers. When I left Sykeston, we were 15% African American. Again, Rich White Country Club Church, 0 African Americans, 15%, in large part because of this. We created a lot more overseas mission opportunities because of that. But again, it helps you articulate a vision. In other words, you're telling us that you want to reach younger people. As the leaders, we said, we're going to plant a new church to reach younger people. You see what I'm saying? See how that works? Cow tipping. I love that graphic, don't you? Do you know what this one was about? We wanted to tip the sacred cows. So we did a social media campaign where we invited the public, whoever, to post that sacred cow that you wanted us to tip. Is it okay for Christians to drink? Is it okay for Christians to gamble? What does the Bible say about divorce? So we had all those questions, and we put ourselves out there, and people loved that. And again, it helped you, it empowered you. Go on Facebook and post something. Come with me and hear what we say about that. How many wrestling fans do we have? Seriously, come on. He's embarrassed. Corn and wrestling? This is wrestling territory. You have the AWA here.
Yeah.
Is he a member? Didn't see the body. You had the AWA though. That was some good old days. But anyway, so we did a series called Wrestling with Christmas. It's a big wrestling area down there where I'm from. But again, we wanted to get into the hearts and the minds of the church. So it's Christmas hard, financial challenges, grieving over a loss. And you can see all the things that we were just trying to address. And so we invited this guy to come and speak. You remember him?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, so we only brought him into the 11 o'clock service. And they were okay with that. Yes?
The church that you were talking about that you served, how would you classify it? Was it liberal? Was it evangelical, conservative?
It was probably, that area is more conservative.
So was it evangelical, more based on what interpretation or theology?
It was Southern Baptist mindset. Even if you're Methodist, it was Southern Baptist. You know. I'm not trying to get political here, but there was like some Tea Party people there. You know, extreme political spectrum. There were some pockets of progressiveness. The church we started, renovated, that was progressive to reach young audience.
Everybody or?
Everybody. Welcoming, inclusive community. Reconciling. So you started a reconciling church plant out of a conservative church. Challenge. Major challenge. When I say Tea Party, yeah, it was conservative. yeah, they probably wouldn't be Methodist, you know, if they knew our true theology. I'm just being honest. Methodism is different in different areas. And it's different in Columbus, Ohio, and but that's one of the beautiful things about Methodism too. So anyway, brought Ted in again, empowered you. He had a great message. He talked a long time though. Wow. Something that we did to help our attendance at Easter is handed out these cards and challenged people to sign them. It says, I will invite 1 to 2 people to this year's Easter service. I'll pray for them every day during 2013. I'll help disciple them within my abilities. I'll connect with another person to hold me accountable for this. Asked you to sign that, turn it in. We mailed it back to you in 6 months to see how you were doing. We had record attendance every Easter. I'll tell you something we did on Easter tomorrow. You know, the week after Easter is usually kind of lower. We took that head on. So honestly, we want people to commit to coming to church, then to responding, whatever way that they're led to respond. One way we want them to respond is to get their names. And so we spend a lot of time, money, trying to get their names so that we can get what I like to say, get our tentacles on people after that first time they come. There's our bulletin for our contemporary service. Did I give you a copy of that last time? Have y'all tried it yet?
Yeah, we have a Connect card, a sheet of paper with a perforated thing.
Yeah, we copied yours almost exactly.
You did?
Yeah.
Do you make a donation?
Yes.
To who?
So a couple things, a couple ministries in our church, and then a couple sort of symbolic memories, symbolic ministries, like the LGBTQ community in Rochester and like Ronald McDonald House or something like that.
How's it working? Are you getting names?
Yeah.
Are you doing it after the message?
They get it at the beginning when they walk in, and then they can fill it out during the service if they want and like give it to an usher or something.
Okay. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, about the flow. I've seen it work really well when you do it after the message with the offering. Getting people to come and give something to an usher is hard, because then you're worried you're going to have to talk to someone, right? You too? Again, you want to get in and out of there, but if I say, if I'm telling you, we're going to make a donation in your honor to one of these charities, all you got to do is fill that out, place it in the offering at the end of the service, and you've already made a difference just by being here today. And so that's kind of the way we set it up. Welcome to First GMC. Thank you. Thanks for coming. This is your first time. We're honored. We want to show you our appreciation by making a donation in your name. And just fill it out, place it in the offering towards the end of the service. And then they can respond that way. Otherwise, first-time guests don't always have something to put in the offering. So they feel bad about it sometimes. Did y'all feel bad when you did when your first time? Guilty. So that's our Connect cards. You could see, if you copied it, then I don't need to go over that. All right, we got simple systems here, and I think we should stop and just have a conversation for 14 minutes. And we'll do simple systems and catalytic events tomorrow. Simple systems is how we start tracking people and getting them into the assimilation process and into the small groups and stuff. Do y'all remember that part? Okay, there's a lot of details to it. So what do you think so far? What can we work on here in terms of guest readiness? And keep in mind, we're talking about reaching the unchurched. So first-time guests, guest readiness. I hear hospitality is one thing that we need to think about. I mean, it sounds like y'all need to really work on hospitality.
I'd like to raise up the thing that you mentioned about, and that it was confirmed by our friends over there, not seeing yourself in the congregation. And I don't think we've been very attentive
intentional in terms of our welcoming group to try to recruit younger people to be intentional welcomers. I think we have tended to think of, well, who knows the people? You know, in other words, have somebody at the door who knows our congregation so that they can greet. I'm hearing you say, get someone who looks like the people coming in the door you want to attract, or at least can identify with them well. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm hearing you say that you're focused more on insiders now.
Right.
I'm saying you have
It's
to,
the comfort of knowing people.
yeah,
And we haven't done the training for helping people knowing how to do what you do as a living, which is salesmanship and producing that feeling that we know that you're new, but you're so welcome here.
you have to shift the thinking from insider focus to outsider focus. It's hard to do because we're family. And it's family reunion every Sunday. So we've got to figure out a way to shift the mindset. And if you guys are huddling up, you got to, like this, we've got to turn out, we've got to be out like this. So if you want African Americans to come, you need to have African Americans at the door or on the team or on the stage. If you want diversity, you've got to have it. But first and foremost, you got to be more outward focused. Yes.
I think we need to totally rethink our 11 o'clock service.
This one? In here.
The one that's in here, yes. And use it as the vehicle to really, that we're using to reach out to the unchurched, rather than most of our focus historically has been to have people come to the 9 o'clock service. And it's a traditional service.
I think, I see in churches that have kind of implemented, start something new, do things, guest readiness, simple systems, catalytic events. Knowing unchurched people are going to try you in the community first before they set foot in there. I think that this facility is unique, right here. People are renting this type of facility in schools, movie theaters. So you have something very unique. But yeah, it's got to be good quality though. It really does. I think she's thinking about that, right?
Yes.
I'm just urging.
A lot.
This is a nudge.
A big nudge, yes.
Oh, no, we have a team of people who are looking into doing just that.
Also, Brad, I just would like to say, when I started here 2.5 years ago, our 11 o'clock worship experience 2.5 years ago was very different than it was today. And probably the average about 2.5 years ago in attendance at the 11 o'clock when I started here maybe was 20 to 25 people on a good Sunday. Now, in the past, I'd say year and a half, we're averaging maybe 40 to 60, maybe 70. So I think that is tremendous growth for that 11 o'clock service.
Yeah. I mean, how many does it hold?
Don't even know.
150 in this space.
So you got 75 coming.
So we do have some momentum there too. We are always constantly thinking and changing how we can make things better. It just takes time.
It does. You gotta have a vision for it. I mean, you really do. What's your goal here? Is it to reach the unchurched? That means everything. So what I was gonna say is, our goal is to leave the traditions alone, work on it later, and eventually we got to it. And so it grew. We made it very, very traditional. High church, traditional. The other one was a rock show. And then we had something in between on Wednesday nights. But we knew that eventually we got unchurched into the journey. They might eventually go to traditions because it's just a different environment. Whether that meant when they get older, they'll go there. It's just a totally more spiritual, where the other one's loud, right? This one's quiet. And so, but we knew part of our strategy to grow the traditional was to, part of church revitalization is starting new things. Part of conference revitalization is starting new things. That's either new churches or new services, right? You have to do them right, though. Again, authenticity and quality. But yeah, I'm not saying ignore traditions. you need a strategy. Start something that's going to be laser focused on the unchurched, invest in it, and who knows what can happen at that point. You may outgrow this, you may be renting the downtown plaza area, whatever that's called. Yes.
There's another unit much like this below that's never been finished. This church could do 2 different worship services at the same time, totally different, in this kind of setting. It already has an elevator going down, has 2 outside entrances, you wouldn't have to come through the front door even.
Is that right?
Oh, there's one over there and there's one over here.
So you can walk in from the outside?
You could.
Okay.
There's no sidewalk to them at all.
Could that be made into a gym? Is that?
No.
No, it's like this.
I know it, but is there enough flat space?
No, it's stadium seating.
There's no sound system yet.
The challenge is that, I think that the major stakeholders, I guess I would say, of the church, are most invested in the 9 o'clock. And they don't see, often, it's hard to understand how crucial the 11 o'clock is to reach unchurched people. And that's a paradigm shift that we're really trying to help with, because we're not messing with the 9 o'clock much, because it's good, I think. It's lovely. But to try to help the congregation understand that the 11 o'clock is crucial. So we have to have good coffee, we have to have good greeting, we have to have, all those things, because this is where we're gonna get a lot of new folks.
Is the 9 o'clock growing?
Yeah, I'd say somewhat.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people, as you say, will come in through this service, and then end up in what they call real church at the 9 o'clock. And that's cool, but, because they want something different.
Yeah, it's,
Tracy, you go.
Well, I'm actually going to refer to them. What I was going to say is, when we have talked, both of us daughters in 8th grade in confirmation with Katie, and just recently we were talking and we were commenting that our children are confusing us because they like to come to church. and we're like, isn't that great? I mean, were you ever like that? I wasn't, we didn't the kids love coming to church, and it's, Nicole and I were both saying, I just don't get it. It's so great. It's so surprising and a little confusing. So part of it is figuring out what that is when you want people that look like us. It would be to ask the kids, I mean, what is it that you like about coming to the 9 o'clock? If we come to the 11 o'clock too much, our kids say, we want to go to the regular one. So they like that too. So figuring out from them, because I certainly never felt that way when I was their age, ever.
Yeah.
And I went to church every Sunday, but I never felt like, oh, we can't stay home. You're sick, come on.
Yeah.
So there's something here
That
that's
would be
right,
good.
but Nicole and I have both identified, we don't understand why our kids feel that.
Maybe they would share that with you.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is because they are involved. When we were all young and involved, our children loved to come to church. There were huge groups of children. But a lot of people aren't involved anymore. They have games, they have this, they have that.
Yeah, you also have to realize unchurched. You guys were raised in the church, so your kids have been and will be maybe the same here. So they're used to that. That's probably a lot of memories there. So thinking of the unchurched folks, maybe they dropped out or they don't have a memory, what's going to change their view of church?
I was just gonna say, I feel like people ask some questions and, get them involved. Where I remember going to church, nobody spoke to me. They talked to my mom and I just stood there and listened. So I feel like, people have gone up, that they don't even know, just, from the short amount of time we've been here, it's like, they'll just be staying there and saying, well, hi, how are you? Or, what are your interests? So I think that helps too with just engaging them more.
Bonus families.
Hey, you may be onto something. Yes.
I have to tell a little story. I don't know the family well, but I think they had kids 5, 8, 10.
dad explained to me, he's upset. He's always supposed to get to greet Pastor Elizabeth first, but his older sibling did, and he's upset. So they realized when Pastor Elizabeth was visiting people down in front of the church, he could go down and greet her. He ran and flew into her arms, and she nurtured him and greeted him and was so glad to see him. It was beautiful. Really beautiful.
She's kind of a big deal around here.
At least she thinks she is.
Yes.
In our congregation, the other great thing is we have a fantastic organist. And not just organist, you are much more than that. Okay. And also that the congregation, and this is due also to many of the, what are they called? The originals or whatever. Stakeholders, that's what the word you use.
Yeah, we have.
Well,
Long
yeah,
time.
you know,
Long time.
I mean, the people who really care, they have refurbished completely. I mean, the funds have come in many different ways, but the organ was really dead. I mean, we had to stop the organ concerts because the organ wasn't functioning.
$1 million.
What to say?
$1 million.
Yeah, right. And so that is also part of the whole thing. I personally believe, well, I know for a fact that makes a difference between the, you know, the 9 o'clock service and the 11 or whatever, any other, because people will want to hear the organ. They want to hear the music, your compositions, your, you know, all the, I mean, it's just so beautiful. Well, yeah, not everybody. I know that, and I realize, you know, like you may want to enjoy, like even the kids, they may enjoy the rock style or whatever, you know, the different style of music. But it also has a draw. And not just for older people, not just for adults, for kids. And nowadays too, in many ways, what I'm hearing is that many of the famous composers are also getting more hip again. Which is, it's always cyclical.
Again, I think it has to be authentic and, you know, just.
Beautiful and inspiring.
Yeah. It does, it's got to be quality, authentic, and it's time to ask for a raise. Good.
I resound with what everyone's been saying, because I think we've had a lot of these conversations through our MCCI process too. Yeah, I think especially kind of what, I'm excited for what Ann was saying about the strategic nature of it, because I think some of this terminology, I think we kind of all mix up. We talk about, we want diversity and young people and unchurched, but those aren't those three aren't the same thing. So if you want to be strategic about our 11 a.m. service, doing unchurched and young people are two different categories. And so I think sometimes we're not super strategic. We're just like, generally young people and more diverse and things like that. But I think the strategic thing, because a lot of our young adults, actually most young adults that I'm working with, love the 9 o'clock service, which is our more traditional service. And mostly it's because a lot of our young adults in this area grew up in the church when they were little, maybe didn't go when they were in college, and now, oh wow, just something really authentic, well done, good quality, brings back some old memories. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of young adults right now. But unchurched is a totally different category. That's people who've never experienced organ. Organ's maybe a little loud, or a little bit, or a little old school. So I just really resound with the strategic part, because I think we want a lot of things because we're passionate and excited. But I think it's getting really nitty-gritty about, like, do we want someone who, a lot of my young adults wouldn't care if corn came, but that's a different community. Does that make sense? So that's just something I've been kind of thinking about. The terminologies we're using are very specific categories.
Yeah, who would your friends be drawn cross-culturally to? Yes.
And you were talking about, you know, the marketing and the plan and that kind of thing. And I mean, just so everyone knows, and you're probably aware of this because I've heard you guys talk about signage and just kind of knowing what you're getting into. We saw there was a 9 o'clock and 11. We couldn't figure out. I mean, I saw 11 o'clock in the ECC. That's how it's like on the website or on the bullet. I'm like, what the heck is the ECC? Until like So I've been here 10, 11, 12 months. It was only like 5 or 6 months ago that I finally saw ECC and what it stood for. So, and no, I mean, we wandered in here at one time. We originally came to the 9 o'clock, and we're like, well, we better go to the 9 o'clock, because I have no idea what the ECC is.
See,
I don't know where it is.
That's the mindset right there. And some people don't, they may not even make it to the building because it's like, I'll just go somewhere else.
Yep.
Or they may not come back, it's too confusing, because it's so overwhelming, isn't it? That first time, you're kind of nervous, and you don't know where to go in, you don't know where to take the kids. I mean, I'm going through that again right now. And so it is very overwhelming, even for a Jesus follower. It's like, where do you go in? And so I think like a 3D tour on a website would be good, like where to check your kid in. You're gonna go in the store, that would be really worth the money, because again, young people, unchurched, they want to know where they're going. They want it to be predictable.
I think of my daughter who's 30. Her best friends are her friends that she met here in grade school. And when she was in grade school, there was a couple of us that did work on Wednesdays, and we would drive the church van and pick up the kids from school and bring them here because their parents worked. And I think today, these two best friends, they're called the Three Amigos, and they live in different cities, and they see each other at least twice a year because of this church. And I don't know what's going on well now with young grade school children, but I used to drive that van, and there'd be 20 kids in the van screaming and yelling and excited about coming to a church program after school. But it was getting, how do you strategically do that when we all work? So thinking outside the box, and when those kids came, their parents came. And so there's more than one way to bring the unchurched here, multiple levels.
Yeah, how bad do you want it, right? What you just described there was authentic relationships. We don't share our stories very well. You know, lifelong friends started here, basically, and nurtured here. People want that. They don't know where to get it. So that's something positive. Something that, I can't remember who said it. I think the pastor said it, about the stakeholders. So is that kind of what might be holding you back from just going full force?
And how do we get around that? Or buy it, or what?
Yeah.
Why does that stop us? I mean, I'm just not.
I guess what I would say is I think it's the cruise ship mentality. We've been focused on what we love so much. And we haven't stirred ourselves a whole lot to look at how do we share what we love so much with people who are desperate for what we love so much. And it's changing we've talked about this at staff too. It's changing from a consumer mentality. The church is here to serve me, right? The staff is here to serve me. To I'm here to be a servant of Jesus Christ, and I'm going to do that, all of us, by being a fake grandparent or by bonus. Being a bonus. By being or drive a bus, but it's a whole. It takes a while for that shift to percolate, But if you look at the resources and the mindset, when people think about worship here, they think 9 o'clock sanctuary, and anything that's left over for the 11, we're happy to have. And staff, Andrew and Katie and I have really wrestled with this, and so
Are you interested in the church growing?
We are.
No, I know you are. There's people that are only concerned with the 9 o'clock service.
I think that you get into a mindset. We love what we love, and if what we love doesn't look like it's like it's going to be hurt, we don't worry so much.
So if we left the 9 o'clock the way they wanted, and now that's happy, but we start voting at 11 o'clock and putting about other focus there, not leaving the 9 o'clock at all, is that going to upset something, or?
As soon as there are people who come in the door who look different, act different, it'll move the system.
And I think
Joel, what were you going to say?
Can't you feel that people are responding to your diversity and your enthusiasm, so that little by little, the stakeholders are too. It's
Yes,
just that,
yes. I don't feel like we're getting like this.
Okay.
I don't feel that. But as I said in my sermon on Sunday, the name of my sermon, Brad, was Squirrels. As we change, we're gonna get squirrely, we're gonna see squirrels. And, you know, so it's just what he was talking about too. Yes, I feel great support. And, the deep love that people have for this congregation is, it's stunning. But it's just, it's looking at, it's training ourselves to see differently, I think.
Have you made anybody mad lately?
Pardon?
Have you made anyone mad lately?
Oh, sure, yes, I have.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes, I have.
I was worried that everyone was happy.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That would not be so.
I figured you had, yes.
I worked with evangelism years ago, and those who began a program had concepts, but only the practitioners made them work, because the Holy Spirit works in the process. They trusted us, and things happened that were impossible. One of the creative evangelism persons said, you'll have jalopy raids. Nobody knew what they were until we did them. But we did them as an authentic part of a whole program. And they did only what they were good for. And we were getting good at it. Because the young people whom we attracted in the process had never seen it done before. And the people who did it made it happen. Until you start doing something and learn how to do it at its best, because the Holy Spirit's at work with you, you don't know. Jalopy raids were simply to pick up every young person that belonged to the church for one evening activity. And that evening activity had to be at its best. And you made the signs, and you had the insurance, and you picked everybody up, and 2 or 3 people went in and said, we got a jalopy raid, you'll come with us the way you look right now. And the parents said, you can't do that, and the kids said, oh yeah, I'm going out the door. And we made sure they got home. But all it did was pick up young people who couldn't say no. And we knew that we had to do something beyond that to have them come back again. Every tool is only good for what it's good for, and only the practitioners know how it works. You don't have to worry about the other people, because they will never get on. They will never catch on to what that means in its setting. Not even the people who had the idea when they gave it to you.
Yeah, I hear you. That's good.
And I don't want to be perceived as denigrating this church at all. It's a courageous bunch here who have started so many powerful ministries in the community and maintained such a strong presence here. You know, it's just my husband has a term that I love, which he says there's such a thing as the terror of abundance. There's a weight to so much promise. And I think that is sometimes what gets hard for those of us who love this place, is because we know what's possible, and we want to participate with the Holy Spirit.
What's your budget here?
About $1 million, a little over $1 million.
That's a lot for, how many attendance, what's the attendance?
I'd say on an average, 340, 330.
Okay, did you have a question?
No, I'm just gonna make a comment, because what I, sitting here, am sensing is we're trying to explain that there's a different feel in the church than we've had in the last 10 years. And I would point us to name the fact that we have everyone on staff. We feel they enjoy what they're doing. We feel that they love their ministry. That makes a huge difference to this congregation.
And they're competent.
And they're competent and they want excellence.
You're competent.
Question, comment in the back.
What
inviting our friends, we can reach out to those unchurched people as well.
Yep, I agree.
Some of our friends are unchurched. Exactly.
It sounds like you're positioned well. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of taking that next step forward. Are you guys doing any outreach in the community?
Oh, yes. A
Hands-on
lot.
service? Can you tell me what that looks like?
One's community food response, people that need groceries, come and get groceries at a Lutheran church? Bethel Lutheran, thank you. And we, members of our church might go to the different restaurants to pick up the food. Other members might be there to get it organized in that kitchen, and others are there when the guests come to get their groceries. Our church started the Methodist Church in Rochester. Our church started, I think, the first high school in Rochester, so it goes way back.
Okay. Well, those are awesome things. Just wondering, how does the community seeing you out there?
I don't think they
They
stand
don't
up with
see
us.
us.
They
We're
don't
going to
see
talk about
us.
that tomorrow, because that's where the unchurched want to engage with you. As great as those things are, they don't know that you guys are responsible.
Great secret.
Yes.
Well, we used to have t-shirts, but we only wore them for about 6 months.
Uh,
I'm serious, we all got the t-shirts, Christ United Methodist, well, many of us that were doing things, and that lasted about 6 months. But I would just like to say that this church is such a special place, and so many people that are my contacts within this church are here because of the people that are here. And I think the key, and we're all concerned that we're losing younger people, we're the white-haired church. But a lot of us don't know how, except to greet and be friendly, and we don't want to be smothering, but we don't know how to turn for the outreach of people. We talk it, we talk the talk, we want it. But, and we're happy here with the people that we're here and the opportunities we have here to grow and learn spiritually and in other ways. But we don't know, in my opinion, we don't know how to make the big turn to reach to other people.
We need
that
a
are
plan.
outreach. We need, we're ignorant.
Good plan.
That's why I'm here. I'm looking forward to sharing with you more of the third part that you haven't seen. Nothing changes our hearts more than, so assume that the longer we live, the more selfish we can become. Especially in a church setting. We don't want to change, we don't want to give up our seat, whatever. The only thing that will take focus off of ourselves is doing something for someone else. And so we've got to create those opportunities, create those steps low enough so everybody can participate. Because if they step forward and participate in something like that, that's when God changes your heart. And so we can memorize scripture, and that's great, but to go from selfish to selfless, and that's a broad spectrum. So we come in selfish, we hopefully want to leave selfless. That's Jesus, right? So your whole life you go this way a little bit, and then we go back and forth. But the best way to move is put yourself to the side and do something for someone else. I would imagine that you have, in the 9 o'clock service, you have very generous people in terms of giving, and that may be one of the greatest spiritual gifts is the gift of generosity. And that's awesome, but that's easy too, right? It's easy to write a check.
It's easy to love those that are easy to love.
Yeah. We need to get people moving from where they're at to a new place. And so I'll show you how we did it and how other churches are doing it tomorrow. So I know that it's late. So y'all ready to close?
Yes.
I mean, it's like 10:15 on my watch. I look at Central to Eastern time, and I'm back at Central. So let me pray, and then we'll end it, okay? Holy God, we are just so grateful for just this opportunity to be here. Lord, I'm thankful for each person that took time out of their Friday night to come and just hear and maybe learn, and so that we can just be better followers of you. That's amazing, Lord. And so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for how your Holy Spirit may have spoken to each of us tonight. And I pray that you will continue to push us and move us into action, to go away from this training ground, to go into our communities and make new friends and just reach more and more people with that message of hope that can only be found through you. And so God, I pray as we leave tonight, you keep us safe. I pray that we rest well and that tomorrow we can come back together and you'll teach us a new thing. We love you, Lord, and we hope this honors you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.